It's the Saturday after Thanksgiving. American red snappers closing at the end of the weekend, so we figured we'd try to get out and load up on some more. We got some more anglers out on the boat today. We got Mr. Dave Haas here, representing Sanibel Island. We got Robbie Gurgley, he's in the back trying to hook up, get us going. Big Mike putting us on the fish. And we got Big C Money, Colton over there, tangled in his shirt. There he is. So we'll try to give you a little bit more of an explanation of our setups today, what we're trying to do. Hopefully we'll get into some fish and keep it exciting. So we got the slow pitch rods out here, the slow pitch jig setups with, I think we got an 80-gram jig on one of the rods. Not sure about the other ones. We're going to be fishing at about anywhere from 130 to 160 feet. We got a little bit more wind and current than we did last time, but we got our spot anchor, so once we find a good spot, we'll get locked on and we'll get after it. Thanks for tuning in. We got Mr. Dave Haas. He's working it. He's just on a conventional with a piece of squid drop down. This one's definitely heavy. It's giving him a little bit of a workout.
There you go, nice and smooth. Might be a grouper.
Might be. I don't see color yet. We'll get in the water once we get color. Look at this guy. Pulling it right off the bottom. He's already got one fish. Oh! Looks like he's ready.
Fish on, number 2. So been fighting this thing for the last 5 minutes.
It's probably a grouper. It's gonna be a grouper. Come on, baby! I hit the drag. Did you see I hit the drag the wrong way? Oh, did you? Didn't matter.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, there we go.
Got a star netter, Mike Elliott.
Is it a
No, but it's gotta be a grouper. It's big.
You can't see it yet.
Tell me when you see color, I'll stick this GoPro in the water.
Stick it in there.
Oh, we don't see color yet.
See color yet? Just keep the rod up, yeah, there. Nice and smooth. You got it. You got him. Nice. He's gonna be a fire truck.
Or a big old black grouper.
Yeah, I'll hold that black grouper.
We're just bringing up the whole structure.
Yeah, you might have a rock. Oh, get it in the water. Put it in. Big.
Shark.
You need the net? See color?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, swing him in. Watch out, Colton. Oh, let me grab the leader. Come here, slowly, keep in the water.
Take it.
There's another one for the box. Oh, Robbie's on the big one, finally.
Now we're drifting.
He's been killing yellowtail snapper all day.
We're drifting now.
Here, someone put the anchor on that then, on camera.
Got it.
Oh yeah, Robbie. Someone might get the net ready.
I got the net ready.
Here, let me get this out of the way. Oh, the chum bag out of the way. It's nice and smooth. Don't, you got the whippy rod, so just keep reeling. There you go. Don't try to pull it up and down. Just reel.
My back hurts.
You color yet?
No.
See anything yet? Come on,
baby. Be a monster yellowtail. Or a monster red. I just saw a little bit of color. Red snapper keeper. Where's the net?
We are hooked up, backed up, tangled up. No, we're cut free now. Yee! Hand me that net. Please, not another shark. It's okay. You know what? Okay, yeah. The drag's not too bad because I'd rather have him run a little bit. He's moving up. I bet you it's a grouper. He's kind of coming up. Like a grouper. Oh shoot! Oh, there he goes. Alright, he's swimming up. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Oh, no, man, he's pulling hard. He's pulling back down. Red? We don't know. Shark? Oh, man, it's a shark. What is it? I mean, he's still 100. He's only got it 50 feet off the bottom. I still got 150 feet before I can see him.
There's nothing there yet.
We all lean on this side. I'm going in. Who's tapping out? Who's tapping out first? Is that the good? Nice. One more and up. Nice. Got him. Oh yeah, there you go. Right. He went one more round. So the groupers usually blow up, so it's gotta be a red snapper. Oh, yeah, big yellowtail. Bring him this way. You're gonna pull. Oh! Oh yeah, dog! Look at that thing! I told you. Oh my goodness. Oh, God. I already got my two though. That's back. That's the TV. Put stuff over here. It's got something tight, something big. You color yet? Alright, we're done the rod. Fighting hard. Coming up now. Waiting for color. Waiting for color. Nice one. Yeah.
Morning after. This is it, Ocean Adventures, Fillet Central. Decided to let the fish sit on ice overnight. A lot of people say that it's better to do that, leave them in the cooler on ice, and it's kind of like resting meat after it comes off of a grill or smoker. And it was also late, so I didn't really feel like sitting down filleting a bunch of fish, so set up my station here. It's obviously southwest Florida here, so it's sunny and warm, so got myself a little makeshift setup here to get into the fish today. So today we will be filleting red snapper and some yellowtail snapper. So got my Cutco knife here. This is a dream in terms of fillet knives, thanks to my boy, my dive partner, my brother, Tanner Elliott. Hooked me up with this thing not too long ago, and it's awesome. It extends out, so as you can see, the size of it's not too big there, but the knife extends out probably another 5-6 inches, so for the big ones that we like to catch. This is also a gripping fillet mat. Captain Mike found this thing online. I actually think his wife Debbie did, found it online. So this is my first time using it. I know he used it last night when he got back. Said it's amazing, so I'm looking forward to it. Basically, it's kind of a hard rubber plastic, and it basically keeps the fish from sliding around while you're working on them. So let's try to get to work here, and I'll show you a little bit about what you're supposed to do to kind of clean these fish and get as much meat off them as possible. All right, hopefully this is a good angle for you guys. One of the first things about filleting fish is a sharp knife. So I did sharpen this before we went on our trip, because sometimes we'll end up filleting at the dock, but because of Hurricane Ian and the destruction we had, we lost a lot of our docks and fillet stations and things like that. So there aren't really any that are open, so we have to get creative. Kind of why I'm sitting here today in my driveway. Hopefully my wife doesn't get too upset with me for the fish guts and the scales that will be all over the place. But sharp knife makes a huge difference. You want to kind of be able to get through it nice and easy without having to put too much pressure on it. Multiple knives are good too. Sometimes if you have serrated knives, and I'm probably going to go inside and get a good serrated knife to kind of cut through once I get to some of the bigger ones. A lot of different ways to fillet fish. Sometimes with these yellowtail, they're smaller. A lot of people, and probably what I'm going to do with this one because of its size, is just kind of cut the head off, gut it, and you know, kind of cook the whole body. So typically what you would do to gut a fish or fillet a fish, you kind of want to pull up that front wing or front, I don't know what you call that, fin, I guess, and you want to kind of go on a diagonal up towards the head, and you want to kind of slice back and kind of get through it right behind kind of the head, and kind of get, oh, I guess my knife isn't as sharp as I thought it was. Might need to sharpen it a little bit more. There we go, it just must have been a bone right there. So you want to kind of go on an angle, kind of like this, and get down into there until you can kind of get to the top spine. Actually, I guess I'm just going to fillet this one so you guys can kind of see. Then what you want to do is kind of run it on the top of the dorsal fin and kind of just break through that. Be careful because fillet knives are usually pretty sharp. You don't want to lose a finger, that would suck. So kind of start your line and then just kind of go down that dorsal fin right on the top, and this is kind of making your first cut into the fillet. Kind of bring it all the way down to the top of that tail, and as you go through you can start to feel you know, where the spine is, and sometimes I like to kind of go all the way through and kind of work over that spine. Now remember, if you know what a spine kind of looks like, it's just like a human spine. It kind of has those ridges, so if you kind of work your blade up and down and over it, you can kind of go through it and you'll feel it as it works. So as you can see, you know, there's your spine line right there, and so I was able to kind of get in there and kind of work through it. So on the other side, now basically all your guts and things like that are down here, so you want to kind of take your line and kind of cut through and kind of get down, and then as you can open it up you can kind of see like the intestines, the guts, and things like that. So once you can kind of see in there, you have your rib bones. A lot of times people leave the ribs on there. You can kind of cut through them. They're not too hard of a bone to kind of get through, so sometimes it's easier just to kind of break through those and then cut those out later on. You know, when you're ready to eat the fish, you can kind of cut those out. So I like the kind of same kind of thing as the top on the dorsal fin. Just look for that center line and just kind of work your knife down there until you meet up with your other line that you had kind of formed from the top, from the you know, from coming over the spine. And then you basically have your two edges, and then you can start to peel back the fish and start to see inside. You know, so you can try to, you know, avoid the bones as much as possible, but make sure that you're trying to get as much meat as you can off of the fish, because obviously you're out there, you're spending money on gas, bait, things like that, time, so you want to try to maximize what you're able to get off of these fish in terms of your meat. So as you can see now, I'm starting to kind of get that fillet off of there. Now I can kind of start to work this up. I'm going to turn it over this way, and by the way, this mat is awesome, because usually your fish are sliding around at this point, and it's an absolute challenge to kind of keep them from moving, and it's nice and tight. So what I'm doing here is jumping over those ridges on that spine. So I'm slowly going through and then finding the next one and then jumping over it and then coming back down on the other side of it. So, you know, almost through, and voila, there we have a nice fillet. Here's your ribs. You know, I'll probably just, actually they're not too bad, so I'll probably leave those on there and maybe pull those out with flyers later on. So once you get that, I'm going to take your fish, I'm going to do it under the table, just kind of hose it off. A lot of people like to use salt water, just kind of preserves it a little bit. I don't have salt water, I don't live on the water yet, so that makes it a little bit difficult, but fresh water will work. But I guess like the chemicals and chlorine and stuff like that that they usually have in fresh water you know, I guess it kind of impacts the fish a little bit. So here's your one fillet. I don't know about trying to skin it on here. Let's try it and see how it works, because usually when you're skinning, you want to kind of have a flat surface, and this really isn't flat because of the little ridges, but as long as you can kind of get like a little edge, kind of get it started between the meat and the skin, then what you can do is kind of turn it around and you can hold on to that skin side, and I think this will work okay because it's relatively flat even though it's not a flat surface. Then you can just kind of pinch it with your fingers on the edge there and slide this knife as much as you can against the skin and between the meat, and just kind of work it so that you're pulling all the meat right off of that skin. Like I said, a lot of times people with these yellowtail, because it's a smaller fish, you know, they would like to just kind of throw the whole thing on the grill. I think we did an episode on that before with a lane snapper, I think it was. So you can do that, that's an option too, but I know I liked the simplicity of it, so I think I lost a little bit of it there on the edge. So for the most part, that was a good effort. Here's your skin, your trash, and then I can kind of edit this a little bit in terms of making up for my mistakes. But I like to eat fish kind of simplicity, so I don't like to have to pick the meat off and get the bones. I like to kind of do that before I cook it, and then that way when I eat it, it's nice and easy. You can just enjoy it, as opposed to having to be careful with your chews to make sure that you don't have any bones in there, because if you do eat bones, that could be a problem. So this is just, I don't know what that is, a piece of cartilage. So once you get it all done, good thing to do, hose it off again, kind of get all the scales and things like that you might have missed off of it. And then you probably want to put it back onto ice as soon as possible to keep it cold. So voila, there's one fillet, and I'm going to do basically the same thing on the other side of the fish, and then throw the carcass out. Some people will keep carcass because there's a lot of meat in between these ribs and things like that, or spine bones. Some people will keep that. I do not. Sometimes I do, but it's like I said, it's a lot of work to kind of pull all that meat off, but it is delicious meat, so if you're into that, I highly recommend it. Matt's awesome, the knife, for real. The fish, Captain Mike, always doing it, putting us on it. Epic day yesterday, so I'm gonna get into it. I got a bunch more to clean here. I don't know if I showed you guys the bucket, but here we go. Got a handful, and this is just a small portion. A bunch of the other guys took some stuff too, so I'll get after it and chime back in when I get to the snapper, or the big red snapper, so you can see that one as well. One of the great things about doing this the day after is you really have a time to get rested, you know, and you get to take your time. So in terms of these fillets, I mean, these are some of the, you know, premier fillets. I'm not missing any meat. Really well done. I'm not tired from being out on the boat, going 60, 70 miles offshore, getting beat up by the rough seas. So I got a good night's sleep last night, and well rested, and no pressure, no time. I can just kind of sit out here and really make sure I'm getting as much meat as I can off of these things. So highly recommend that if you have the opportunity, you know, to leave the fish on ice overnight and then get to them the next day when you have ample time to just take your time and really work at it. It's definitely beneficial. Highly recommend it. So done our second snapper here. We still got our yellowtail, got a couple more to go, and then once I get to the big boys, I'll plug back in, let you guys see what's going on with that. All right, one of the things I did realize, now that I've been in this for a little bit, almost got all the yellowtail done. The mat is phenomenal. Sorry, it's a little windy here today. My table's moving. I got my umbrella rigged to my table, so when it blows, the whole table shakes. One of the things I realized, the mat is phenomenal for making your first cuts and kind of getting the fillets off of the fish. It really keeps it nice and, you know, it's grippy, so the fish doesn't slide around like it does. They're slimy and they're wet, and so usually on a table they slide around, but it really keeps them nice and tight where they need to be, so you can really get into it and kind of, you know, work the spine and kind of get all the meat off of it. But the one thing it's really not that great for is getting the skin off. So first couple times I did it on there, and I kept having to, you know, clean up my mess. But now basically what I'm doing is kind of going back to the flat surface of the table. That's the best thing for when you want to kind of de-skin them, because you really need that flat surface for that knife to kind of stay on. So, you know, you want to make your initial cut in the back just so you can get your fingers on the skin, and then you want to start to pull it tight and just push, you know, a lot of pressure down on that knife onto that flat surface. And then, you know, if your blade's nice and sharp, it's just going to glide along the meat. You want to kind of start to, you know, keep an eye on it, make sure you're still on the skin, in between the skin and the meat, and just keep pressing down. And that's what you need a good fillet knife for, that can flex and kind of, you know, follow that flat path. I think the only thing with that mat is because it's not an actual flat surface, it makes it a little bit more difficult in terms of that. So also, if you pull this skin on that bottom piece, you know, that really helps to get you to be able to slide through it. And then you'll see right here at the end, you got a real clean, nice piece, every bit of it off. You got a little bit of extra there, but for the most part, you know, that's a pretty solid de-skinning of a piece of fish. So I always like to kind of go, I'm pretty particular with the things I do, so I like to get all those little pieces off of it. And this is that bloodline, so I don't really care if I lose any of that bloodline. But that's it, nice and clean. Then it goes into the ice water bath. So we'll do a second one just so you can see. Hopefully this one will be just as good as that one. That first cut's really important. Don't mind if you lose a little bit of that meat just on the tip. That's why the further back down the tail you go, the better, because then once you get that little layer, that's where you can start to get your fingertips on that, and you can really hold that nice and tight, and make sure you keep pulling it tight and keep moving that blade and sliding it and pulling that bottom piece of skin, because then it's going to keep that skin nice and flat against your flat surface. And that's kind of why that mat isn't ideal for this, because it's truly not a flat surface. There we go, another clean. So flat surface is the way to go for de-skinning, for the initial fillets. That mat, it's really going to be a quick cooking lesson. Obviously I just filleted up all of the fish we caught yesterday. What I have here is one side of the American red snapper. So I did a real good job filleting this one, no bones, anything like that. So what I am going to do is cut it up, because I'm going to do a real simple recipe. This is probably the best way to really taste the full flavor of the fish. So I'm going to cut it up like that. Here's my pan. I'm going to take some butter. I'm going to put some butter in the pan just like that. And then I'm going to actually stick this in the oven on broil on high. What I want to do is kind of melt this butter down just a little bit, just so it's liquefied. And then I'll put the fish in and put the seasoning on, and we'll cook it for probably about 5 minutes or so. All right, so I just wanted to melt down the butter just a little bit, just to kind of get a little bit of it liquefied. And then what I want to do is I want to take the fillets, put it in there, and get a little bit of butter on it. And then that way I take my Everglades fish and chicken seasoning. This is awesome. A lot of people down here in Florida use this stuff. It's a really nice seasoning for fish, so just put a little bit on it. So what you want to do is really have the opportunity to taste the actual fish, because it's so fresh. And American red snapper has got a nice sweet flavor to it. It's a nice hearty fish, so you don't want to overdo it with seasoning. Same thing with all the little fillets, kind of just get some butter on them, get some seasoning, flip them. This is just a little sliver that I had. It's going to be a nice little tasty piece. And then the hard part is when they're big like this, is fitting them all in there. So you want to move that butter around, make sure it's nice and wet there. Okay. Oh, I don't need all that. I'll put some more on this one. There we go. Voila. Now we're ready to go. So I'm going to put this back in the oven on the broiler. Probably just about 5 minutes. It's not gonna take too long. Pull these guys out. They're sizzling. Nice and hot. While they're nice and hot, what I like to do is get this spoon here, put some of this butter that they were cooking in, and drizzle it on top of them, get them nice and moist. They look amazing. I don't think I've ever had American red snapper like this before. But like I said, this is a quick and easy way to prepare fish, eat it, and be able to really taste the flavors of it. So here we go. That's what everybody's been waiting for. Oh, look at how juicy that thing is. Now I'm gonna try not to burn my mouth like I did last time. It's steaming hot. Wow, that's pretty good. That's really good.
Penny, you should show them who's filming.
No.
It's nice and tender. It melts in your mouth. It's got a great
Any bones?
flavor. No bones.
Whoopsies.
Look at it. It falls apart. It's just so well cooked. I think she likes it.
That's good.
If she goes back for more, that means she really
The
likes
middle
it.
part's really tender.
Yeah.
Smoke.
All right. Well, we're gonna enjoy the rest of this.
That's really good.
Thanks for tuning in.